And good evening. Welcome to the June 24th meeting of the Murfreesboro City School Board. We're glad to have those of you in the audience with us. We're glad to have those that are at home watching us on closed circuit TV. At this time, we're going to ask you to please rise as Angela Fairchild, our Director of Special Education, will lead us in our pledge, followed then by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now our moment of silence. Thank you. All right, members of the board, you have seen the agenda as printed. We have a motion to approve the agenda as such.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Any question or comment? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Communications? Ms. Trail?
Good evening.
Good evening.
A lot of my communication really talks about MERV, our Mobile Education Resource Van. So I'm so excited to tell you it is up and rolling this summer. It actually started in June. So far, they're going out on Wednesdays with the child bus and just following that child bus and offering books, offering supplies, offering actually some cleaning supplies as well to our families, as well as like educational sheets, and it's been just a great experience. They also are doing a different route on Tuesdays, every other Tuesdays, that's directed towards our McKinney-Vento families to make sure that they also are getting those supplies and those extra supports throughout the summer. So just thrilled about that. Going into that, I want to just take time to say thank you to the Blackman High cheer team, and Blackman High School cheer team, and I think some of the middle schools helped as well. They came in, they helped us get the books from our location on South Church Street over to Ridgely. Then they helped unbox them and they helped us get MERV set up and ready and hitting those streets. So when you have a bunch of cheerleaders put their mind to something, they can get things done. So thank you so much to them. We are also already working on those back to school supply drives and all the fun things for our families to have right before we start school. We will have a farmers market and supply drive at Mitchell-Nilsson Primary Gym. Now that is open to everyone, that's just the location. So it's at Mitchell-Nilsson Primary. Community partners for this event are Murfreesboro Muslim Youth, and they'll be leading the school supply portion. Murfreesboro City School farmers are going to be there providing free vegetables to our families. Read to Succeed will be there handing out books. WellPoint will be there providing school supplies as well as education on TennCare benefits and healthcare benefits. And then we have several nonprofits as well as other faith-based organizations working on school supplies and school drives with us already. Stuff the Bus actually kicks off tomorrow, so we will be hosting the Stuff the Bus site again at Mitchell-Nilsson Primary, and we'll have all of those details to our families really soon. That's my communications. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Duke?
Well,
Spotlight on education.
Yes.
Legacy.
Good evening, board. Tonight we are actually combining, since it's June and it's our summer months, we are combining our traditional Spotlight on Education and our Best of MCS recognition to recognize several individuals for their long-standing service to MCS. We really got together as a team this year and we were talking and we said we wanted to do continue to look for ways to honor our employees, and we thought this time of year we would start a new recognition program that we hope to continue and plan on continuing in the future years as we celebrate individuals who are retiring and moving on to the next chapter. As many of you know, we had our annual retirement luncheon for our retired employees, which was a great day. But we wanted tonight to do an additional recognition for not just any retiree, but we want to recognize to the board those individuals who we are calling legacy retirements. A legacy retirement indicates that these individuals have spent 20 or more years serving the students of our city. So they have not just dedicated their time and talents to our district, but they are serving the students of our city for a significant portion of their careers. And we want to honor them publicly for the commitment they've had to making sure every child in this district is known, safe, challenged, and empowered. So in your packet tonight, you have a full listing of everyone who was a legacy retirement, retiring with over 20 years of service to our district. And we are pleased that we have a few of them here tonight that we can publicly recognize. So first, I'd like to recognize Debbie Polito. Debbie, if you want to come up. Debbie was actually hired in 2001. And she has spent 24 years working at Mitchell Nielsen in an EA position, a cafeteria assistant position, in general ed and intervention and special ed, but 24 years serving the students of Mitchell Nielsen. And we are so thankful for you. Congratulations, Debbie. And I hope you've already enjoyed your first few weeks of retirement. Thank you. Yeah! Our second retirement today is, make sure I have it here, Miss Janet Pascal. Janet, if you want to come on up. Janet is retiring. She has been at Northfield since 1989, correct?
Wow.
1990, sorry. Yeah, I mean, let's get it right. 35 years. So after 35 years at Northfield Elementary, serving that community there. She has been the media specialist there as well as a teacher, but the majority of her career there as the librarian. So I will tell you, I don't know what I'm going to do going to Northfield and peeking my head in the library and not seeing Janet Bell. But Janet, 35 years.
35 too at Bellwood also, so I was 37 and I was a sub for the first year.
There you go. 38 years. All with Murfreesboro City Schools. Thank you so much, Janet, for your commitment to our school system. Thank you so much. And our final person who could be here with us tonight, the one, the only, the incomparable Miss Beverly Johnson. She was hired in 1997 as a sped teacher at Reeves Rogers. Also served in Irma Siegel as a special education teacher before she moved to an assistant principal position in 2002. But for the last 28 years, she has served as an assistant principal at Black Fox, at Bellwood, a teacher, and we are just so thrilled. And again, I can't imagine Black Fox without Beverly Johnson. Ms. Strevel's going to have to figure out what she's going to do, but we want to say thank you so much for what you've done for us and for the city as well. So we just wanted to publicly recognize these employees who have given so much to our district and publicly thank them for the work that they do.
Thank you, sir.
Incredible, Doc. Thank you.
And we do appreciate each and every one of you for each and every day that you were there. There's a lot of them. All right. Public comment, and we do not have any public comment, so we'll go to consent items. We have a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Any question or comment? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. All right, action items. Approval of the revised 25-26 school calendar.
Tonight, we're presenting a revised academic calendar proposal for the 25-26 school year. This calendar meets all requirements from the Tennessee Department of Education. Changes were made to account for a Rutherford County election that will be held in May and to adjust our end of the school year for students based on feedback from stakeholders. The first day of school for students, fall break, spring break, and the start of winter break all coincide with dates for Rutherford County schools. This calendar utilizes 6 stockpile days for professional learning, and 7 stockpile days will be saved for inclement weather. and we are recommending approval as presented. It does match. We made no changes from what we showed you at the last workshop we had at central office.
We have a motion to approve the calendar for 25-26.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson.
Bless
Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Price and Ms. Long. Any questions about the calendar? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Approval of discrimination policy revisions on first reading.
So
Poor
before,
Robert.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I jump in, I do want to specify that all of the policies we'll be covering tonight are changes that are recommended or required by state law changes going into effect July 1st or earlier. So I do want to preface this, but we have about 16, so stick with me here. We'll start with board policies 4.100, 5.500, and 6.304. These are policies we currently have, but they're on revision on first reading. And these policies have been changed in compliance with Public Chapter 293. And they have been updated to include the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. This is now a requirement of law that we include that definition in each of our anti-discrimination policies. So that's been included verbatim from the state statute in those policy changes. Our staff recommendation would be to approve changes to those board policies on first reading.
Do you want us to approve each one or disapprove individually?
We can group them together. Yes, we
Okay.
can approve them like that.
So we're going to have a motion to approve policy changes for policy 4.100, 5.500, and 6.304.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Any question or comment? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. All right, policy 1.407.
Board Policy 1.407 is before the board on revision. Public Chapter 94 eliminated fax machines, about time, as an option for submitting public records requests. Policy 1.407 has been updated to reflect this change, and there are other non-substantive changes that were made for clarification. Our recommendation is to approve changes to Board Policy 1.407 on first reading.
Have a motion to approve policy 1.407.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Long. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any question or comment?
E-faxes are used every day. I don't understand the difference between an e-fax and an email, but they're not totally outdated.
We will still accept electronic communication and on all forms.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Policy 2.403, surplus property.
Board Policy 2.403 has been revised to align with updated federal and state requirements. The federal threshold for property disposal has increased from $5,000 to $10,000, and Public Chapter 500, which is a state law, clarifies that notices posted on news and information websites are not required to appear in the same newspapers used for printed publication. These changes ensure that the policy remains compliant with current regulatory requirements. Our recommendation is to approve the proposed revisions to Board Policy 2.403 on first reading.
We have a motion to approve policy 2.403.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Any question or comment? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Policy 3.202.
Public Chapter 315 was passed this last legislative session, and it clarifies that no more than 2 fire drills are required to occur within the first 30 full school days. This change has been made to Board Policy 3.202, and our recommendation would be to approve on first reading.
Have a motion to approve policy 3.202.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Nope, I'm sorry, Ms. Price, excuse me. Any question or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Policy 3.204, threat assessment.
We had a public chapter 215 this year that included some requirements for our threat assessment team's policy. It mandates updates to school district policy regarding threat assessments and reporting. Specifically, we have to revise to reflect 2 new requirements that include notification to parents that must occur within 48 hours of the district reporting a significant student threat or disruptive behavior to law enforcement that requires assistance, and a quarterly report detailing all such incidences must be presented at our board meetings. These changes will ensure alignment with the state law, and they promote transparency and timely communication with our families. Our staff recommendation would be to approve changes to Board Policy 3.204 on first reading.
Have a motion to approve policy 3.204 on first reading.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Ms. Long, y'all don't have to have a second. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Any question or comment, Mr. Richardson?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bush, in this policy, it refers to 2 things that can be ambiguous, at least in my mind. And disruptive behavior or threat of significantly disruptive behavior, is that defined in the code?
No, it's not, and we talked to TSBA about that in their most recent training that they had on state statute changes and policies, and that was one of the things that we were concerned about. I would say to the extent that we're reporting significantly disruptive behavior to local law enforcement with the intent that they assist us with that significantly disruptive behavior, that's when that behavior would be reported to parents of the school, but it is not defined in the state law. And TSBA did not include a definition in their model policy, so we did not include one here.
I do think it, even though the definition is missing, the intent of the law is if it's to the point we have to get law enforcement involved, and then they have to look further into it, that's when we would notify parents. So even though disruptive behavior may not be defined, to me the crux to notification is we as a school system had to actually turn it over to police to help investigate or look into, or they had to take additional action.
Thank you for the clarification. And if that is the essence of this policy, the phrases that you just used, I think, is articulated extraordinarily well. For the purposes of first reading, I'm not going to object to it. I would ask that we look into defining it if any other districts have defined it. I say that because I see at least twice a month the collateral effects, not from our district, from other districts, from these reports, and it has significant consequences for these young people that are going through the juvenile justice system. And so I just want to keep a very close eye on it. I think the intent is significantly more clear now. Thank you.
So, and I just want to clarify, you were requesting we go back and change and add some additional language there. Is that what you'd like to see?
I'd like to roll back the tape, quote you, and throw it in there.
Yes, I can discuss. I've already talked with Rutherford County Schools, and we've talked a little bit about that. It is a shame that it was not thoroughly defined in the state statute, but it is what it is. So I'll look and see if there are other policies that are adopted by other school districts to see if there's a comparable.
Thank you very much.
Well, we've had a motion and a second to approve the policy as written. All in favor of such say aye.
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 Opposition? There is none. Okay, thank you. Policy 4.403, library materials.
Policy 4.403 is being updated to comply with Public Chapter 270, which clarifies that materials may not be excluded from school libraries solely on the basis that they're religious. This revision ensures alignment with state law. Our recommendation would be to approve Board Policy 4.403 on first reading.
Have a motion to approve policy 4.403, library materials and revisions.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Any question or comment?
Briefly, Mr. Chairman, is the staff recommendation based on compliance alone or something meritorious in this change in and of itself?
Based on statutory compliance requirements.
Very well. Thank you.
Other questions? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Policy 4.406, the use of the internet.
Proposed revision to policy 4.406 is necessary to ensure ongoing compliance with Public Chapter 195. This law mandates that school districts implement safeguards on their internet networks to prevent access to social media platforms by students unless explicitly authorized by a teacher for educational purposes. Additionally, the law requires that internet use be limited to age-appropriate content and that personal student information be protected from unauthorized collection or disclosure. Our policy update reflects these new legal obligations, and I will say we currently have some district practices that were already in play prior to this state law going into effect, but this policy change does codify those requirements into board policy. Our recommendation would be to approve those changes to this board policy on first reading.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Long. Any question, comment? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Policy 4.600, grading system.
In alignment with Public Chapter 330, Policy 4.600 has been updated to include a new reporting requirement, specifically report cards for students in grades K through 8 pursuant to state law must now include the student's score on the most recently administered universal reading screener and, if applicable, the results of a dyslexia screener. These updates ensure that families are better informed about foundational literary progress and screenings. That's supporting early identification and intervention efforts. Thus, we are excited to recommend approval to changes to Board Policy 4.600 on first reading.
We have a motion to approve policy 4.600.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Any question or comment? Yes, Mr.
It's not a question, just a comment. I do just want to clarify, we are already sending that information home. I just want to make sure that's clear. This just makes sure the law just requires we do it all at one time for parents so they see it. So in this case, our parents will most likely see it twice. They'll see it when we typically send it out after the assessment's done, and then they'll see it again on their report card.
Very good.
Can we charge the state for the extra ink?
Fax fee.
Fax it to them.
Not anymore.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Policy 5.1061, employment of retirees.
Yes, this policy underwent significant revisions due to recent legislative changes under Public Chapter 159. Beginning in the 2025-2026 school year, reemployment of retirees will require a bona fide separation of service that includes a mandatory 60-day break in employment and a prohibition against any prior agreement to return to work. To ensure compliance with this state law, this policy has been revised to reflect those requirements. Our recommendation is to approve these changes on first reading.
We have a motion to approve the policy change.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Price. We have a second.
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Long. Any question?
I have a question. So is this reversing what we have already done about retirement so that they could come in and, since we're short on teachers is this different?
It does put some additional stipulations on it. It doesn't change it. The original law was scheduled to phase out with that, where a retired teacher can return full pay and 70%. The law really clarified it has to be for a hard-to-staff position. And then the additional language that they really clarified was that you could not have a kind of predetermination agreement in May, hey, I'm going to retire, and then come back and teach anyway. You have to have that bona fide separation. So we will still be able to hire teachers who are retired back at two main pathways. First is the 120 days. They can work up to 120 days and still get full retirement. And Dr. Johnson, do you know how many teachers we had last year that did the 120 days?
We had one that worked full-time. We probably had 7.
Okay.
That is interim.
Okay. Yeah. So we are using those there, but so that doesn't change. It's just we have to make sure that separation, there isn't again, predetermined separation agreement before they retire.
Okay, but the 120 days, that's not a whole year.
That's not a hot, so they can still come, yeah, they can still come back 120 days. We encourage them to come back 120 days.
Yeah, well, that's what
Fill
I'm
those
trying to-
interims, and they can still do full retirement.
Now, they can be here for 120 days and then step out and then come back when? 2 days later?
No, sir, they do 100 days for that school year.
Okay.
So a
Now-
lot of them divide it up amongst the years, they'll work for a couple of months, and then they'll take off, and then they'll come back, but they can't go over that 120 days, so that it doesn't affect their retirement benefits.
Okay.
Wasn't their salary previously at 70%? And
So-
now it's at 60, am I right?
No, the second method, so the 120-day method is full retirement benefits and their pay for that position on the salary scale for 120 days. If they come back and want to do a full year with us and basically come out of retirement for a year, then they can get 70% of their retirement, and that's at 70% while still getting that full pay. So I think there's two pathways you can take there. I do know last year one of our employees that came out and did the full year for us and got full pay and 70% retirement was a bus driver. So he came out. So it applies both to staff. The old previous law was bus drivers and teachers. Now it's been kind of reclassified to hard to staff positions.
Okay, thank you for the
So there are,
clarification.
yeah, there are multiple ways for our retired educators to come back.
Okay, good.
All right, so clear my brain up. What's the difference between the 60% and the 70%?
Hard to,
10%?
hard,
I realize that, but I thought I saw
hard
where
to
It's-
staff, hard to staff position.
hard to
Oh,
staff.
sorry. For the 120-day contract, the compensation cannot exceed 60% of the annual full-time salary they received in the year before. So they could not, 120 days by nature wouldn't, but they could not come back for some reason, work 120 days and actually make more money than they made the year before. I think looking at some of those predetermination agreements, that there is a salary cap if we brought them back for an additional position. If I was to retire and you brought me back for a 120-day contract, I would be limited. I could not make more than 60% of my current salary under that 120-day. Again, that's typically not an issue because they're working 120 days and we're not bringing them back to do a job that is significantly higher paying. Usually it's the same job.
All right, we've had a motion and a second to approve policy 5.1061. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Policy 5.110.
Public Chapter 433 now permits boards of education to determine whether to compensate a teacher's estate or designated beneficiary for unused leave time. Policy 5.110 has been updated to include this option. We've also added clarifying language to Policy 5.110 to specify that an employee must take extended leave under Board Policy 5.304 when planning to be absent for 5 or more consecutive personal or professional days during their contract year. I do want to specifically reference, this is a permissive, the Public Chapter 433 is a permissive statute, so the Board of Education may choose to compensate a teacher's estate upon their death. We are going to cap that at 10 days. So what they would earn in any given year in the event of death. Again, very limited circumstance. So to the extent that someone retires, they still have that time. But this will be, for purposes of this, capped at 10 days. And I don't know if you want to speak to that, Dr. Duke.
Yeah, I think it's important because it's permissive, the board is not required to do it. Our recommendation is that we do honor that. Of course, we want to make sure we're taking care of our employees, and we want to make sure we're taking care, in the event of an untimely death, that their estate is also taken care of to the extent possible. Because the law doesn't require this is how many days you have to, just you can, we started with that 10 sick days because that is what they would earn the year of that service. We wanted to put a number on it because there are employees that will have 250 sick days, right? If you've been teaching for a long time, and that would be a significant amount of money that would really be in budget prohibited for us to be able to account for how much we do. So that's where the team landed on. If we do have an employee that passes away and we would pay up to the amount they earned that year, which would be 10 sick days.
Yeah.
The staff recommendation would be to approve changes to Board Policy 5.110 on first reading.
Do we have a motion to approve policy change 5.110?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Long. Any question?
No question.
Ms. Moore?
What were we doing before? What's our current practice?
So again, it's a permissive state
Right.
statute, so this will actually be the first time that this is in effect. To the extent that there is an untimely death, that the staff member is owed wages, we have a form specifically for paying out that if there is not a next of kin, a spouse or a child. So that is what we've been doing, and they'll get their vacation days. This is specific to sick leave, accrued sick leave, and again, capping it at those 10 days to avoid having to bring a budget amendment for that purpose.
But to clarify, prior to this law, nowhere was it that we were paying out for sick leave.
We weren't paying sick
We
leave.
were not paying
So
sick
this is
leave.
actually,
Yeah, it's an added benefit to our employees. So of course, when you retire, sick leave can transfer to TCRS, but in the event of a death, they would not transfer. And so those are just days that are lost. And so this provides something to the family for those unused.
okay, thank you.
And this is only for certified employees.
I believe we have it for all employees.
It
This
is,
is-
it is specific for teachers.
Teachers, okay, I apologize.
Does this count for classified?
There is not a state statute for classified. This is, the statute specifically applies to teacher estates.
Okay.
We can, if what I think you're maybe getting at, Mr. Campbell, if you're saying, does the board have the right to also extend this to classified, that's something we could go back and look at?
I can research. I will say it is it's very specific. And so there is another state statute that piggybacks off of this one that applies to state employees. And we may be able to finagle something there to make that work. But that would be something I'd have to go back and research. I wouldn't be able to make it.
But if the
Determination
board would
tonight.
like to approve it on first reading tonight, what we can do is go back and look at that. And then if that is something that's possible, we could bring that back on second reading. If we wanted to also
Yeah,
consider
I'd
extending
like
that
to
to.
see us do that.
And if we could see a fiscal note on that as well.
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. All right. Board Policy 5.305, Family and Medical Leave.
Public Chapter 235 revises state law regarding paid parental leave for eligible employees. This state law does update the definition for eligible employees who must now meet two criteria to be eligible for paid parental leave. One, they must hold a valid license or emergency credential issued by the Department of Education for the position that they occupy. And two, they must have served in a full-time licensed required position for at least 12 consecutive months with the district. The statute now permits employees to use this leave either consecutively or non-consecutively with permission from the director of schools and minimum increments of 1 week. These changes ensure alignment with that state law, and our staff recommendation would be to approve those changes on first reading.
If I can also add to this, just for a little extra clarity, we were all very excited when the paid parental leave law passed to give our employees 6 weeks of paid leave. It was fantastic. It's a great benefit to our employees, and we're really pleased with that. And we are getting reimbursed from the state for that leave. So that's also, we're very thankful for that. The law, though, did have that caveat where the leave did not have to be taken consecutively. And so there were districts across the state where employees would take off, instead of taking 6 weeks, they take every Monday and Friday off for a period of time. And so that interrupted leave really became an issue in districts as trying to fill spots and make sure that continuity of education for our students. So what this does is gives us, and we put that kind of parameter in there where based on state law, they can take all 6 leaves at once, or if they need to take it intermittently, it has to be at least in 1 week sections so that we can plan for the continuity of instruction for our students.
That was helpful, thank you.
That makes sense.
Good. We have a motion to approve policy 5.305.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Long. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Any question or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Policy 5.701, substitute teachers.
Public Chapter 235 also made statutory changes to Policy 5.701. It now permits substitute teachers to serve up to 30 days without a license, which is an increase from the previous limit of 20 days. The revised policy also clarifies that retired teachers who do not hold an active license but were retired between July 1st, 2011 and July 1st, 2016 shall be paid the same rate as those with an active license. Additionally, a definition of emergency use was added to this policy for clarity. Our staff recommendation would be to approve changes to this policy on first reading.
Have a motion to approve policy 5.701.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Any question or comment? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. Thank you. Policy 6.303, questioning students and searches.
Policy 6.303 has been revised to reflect changes required by Public Chapter 244. New language has been added that requires that any search of a student must be conducted by a school resource officer or a school administrator who has completed a state-mandated training. More details to be released soon. The Tennessee Department of Education is tasked with developing that training. Additionally, this policy title has been changed from interrogations and searches to questioning students and searches to better reflect our current practices and procedures. Our recommendation would be to approve changes to Board Policy 6.303 on first reading.
Have a motion to approve policy 6.303.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Any question or comment?
I have a
Ms.
question.
Moore?
So the way we have this drafted, so it seems like the important thing is the school administrator goes through training before they're conducting any of these questioning or searches. So in the language of our policy, sort of paragraphs 2 and 3, or points 2 and 3, where it says a school administrator shall be on site at any principal-initiated search, and a school administrator shall oversee the search and may end the search at any time. Do we need to specify that that school administrator is the one who received the training? My worry would just be that the administrator who received the training is then delegating to another school administrator who has not, and so we have an untrained person overseeing if we're not clear that that is the administrator who needs to be there on site.
Yes, I can add that for our second reading.
Okay,
I
thank you.
will say, and to clarify too, I appreciate that clarification there. We will be training our principals and assistant principals, so they will be trained. But there are times, if both are out, that we have a designee in the building, and so that will be hope to clarify that as well.
And I will say too, the school resource officers have to go through this specific state mandated training as well. So there is that in addition to the school administrators. But we'll make that change prior to second reading.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
What you're asking to add is that the administrator that does the search has been trained, not.
Right, exactly. Just to be clear that it is that
The law
administrator.
says it has to be anyway, doesn't it? Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Policy 6.312, use of personal communication devices.
Revisions to Board Policy 6.312 are presented to align with new requirements of Public Chapter 103, which mandates that the district adopt a policy that prohibits student use of personal communication devices in instructional settings, except where statutory exceptions apply. This would be for health, disability, or emergency situations. This updated policy also includes an emergency communication plan, which is required by the new statute, that outlines how the district will communicate with families during school hours in the event of an emergency. Our staff recommendation will be to approve changes to Board Policy 6.312 on first reading.
Have a motion to approve policy 6.312, use of personal communication devices.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Richmond. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Any question or comment?
I have a question.
Ms. Moore?
On this one, I don't know that I have a suggestion for changing it. I just want to bring up something that I thought about when I was reading this. Lower in the draft policy, we talk about specific actions that a student might take with their electronic device that would clearly be considered unauthorized, disruptive, and just prohibited. And so one of those that's listed is recording, photographing, or live streaming student, staff, or school activities without the express consent of the principal or the principal's designee. So I think I know what we're getting at. We don't want people live streaming, fighting, and things like that. But there have been instances in school districts, not ours, but others, where kids who were recording things that were not right, that actually ended up being a good thing in the sort of bigger justice sense. So I don't know if we need to have some sort of exception here that you're not in trouble if your recording or your photograph is used in such a way, or if we just are counting on the fact that the discretion that the disciplinarian in the school would not take disciplinary action against a student if we thought it was for a reason that was not bullying and harassment, but was really trying to record something that was wrong that needed to be captured.
I agree. The language does appear to be the fox guarding the hen house.
So I would point you back up to line 29 and 30 on page 1, where a student can utilize their PCED under the following circumstances in case of an emergency. We could clearly define, like that would include situations where staff, students would might be subject to harm. But that's a slippery slope because, again, a student could record a fight and say, well, I was doing it, instead of saying I'm doing it to egg it on, and I'm doing it to, there is an emergency situation. So I want to be careful with that. Of course, there is a good amount of discretion within our code of conduct for administrators to take into account situations, fact-specific situations. And Dr. Duke, I don't know if you want to speak to that specifically.
Yeah, and I appreciate the question and the clarification there, because again, if a student was in that situation, then we would want to them not feel like they couldn't do it. I think because of the age we serve, that's probably a little less of a concern. Not that our students aren't reading our policies, but I do think I would ultimately say in conversations with principals, our principals would make that decision if they felt like it came. I do not foresee a situation where a principal would have a student come to them and say, hey, I recorded this, and it was something that principal really needed to know, and that principal would then turn around and discipline that student because they do have a lot of latitude there. So I don't foresee that as an issue, but I definitely want to say if the board wants to be very sure that's there, we can look at adding some additional language. Again, my concern would be the slippery slope of someone being able to go back to our policy and say, oh no, you actually told me I could record. That's what I would want to avoid.
I think language for any lawful purpose may encapsulate.
Could you say case-by-case basis? Those will, I'm not an attorney. But I just
discretion
thought
of the administrator?
discretion administrator or something,
I think
some language case by case or something like that.
Those sort of vagaries,
Yeah.
it sort of gets into due process. Why was this child treated different than another? That's a
What, when you say
dangerous-
case by case?
Yeah.
I can go back and look at that, and I'll bring that back on second reading for more discussion. We'll make it an action item specifically that we can vote on instead of putting it on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Like I said, I don't know that I have a solution for it, but it occurred to me while reading it and wanted to bring it up for the board to consider.
Well, we have a motion and a second to approve the policy change. We've had discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none. And you will make whatever changes for second reading. All right. Policy 6.411, promoting student wellness.
Recent changes in state law have modified the physical activity requirements for students. Elementary students must now receive 40 minutes of physical activity each full school day, which is an increase from the prior requirement of 130 minutes per week. These minutes are in addition to and not inclusive of physical education classes. We have updated 6.411 to reflect those changes, and our recommendation would be to approve those changes on first reading.
Do we have a motion to approve the policy change 6.411?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richmond. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Now, questions?
I have a question.
I got a question too, but go ahead, ladies, go first.
All right, thanks. I promise I'm done. That just hit a rash of them. I had a lot of.
There's a lot of laws, so there's a lot of changes.
Can we go
I
back to
appreciate
the
que-
fax machine?
So this one, I mean, recess is great. I think it solves a lot of issues. But I do know that these elementary school students are scheduled to the minute. And so I am curious where we are, what is being cut without, we're not making the day longer. So what is being given up in exchange for the 40 minutes a day?
I see our director of instruction walking to the podium. That was gonna be my question too. Where we gonna get the extra time?
So good evening, Board.
Good evening.
We actually spent the last principals meeting going through this change. And so here's what we did. We have a 7-hour day. From that 7 hours, we pulled out 30 minutes for lunch, 45 minutes for special area, 40 minutes for recess, and then 60 minutes for booster intervention, which put us, when you add that up, you're right at 3 hours for that, which leaves us 4 hours for instruction. So the state does give us recommended instructional times. Here's an example, K2 literacy. They recommend 120 minutes, with 90 being the minimum. We were able to, in K2, to keep it at the 120 minutes. And then we had 60 to 75 for math. So schools have some autonomy to play a little bit with that. 30 minutes for science and social studies, and that is across K5. And then we did leave in 15 to 30 minutes for transitions and morning meetings. So we gave principals the recommendations, stayed within those recommended state guidelines, but it's more at the minimum now. Principals had conversations around it. They have the autonomy to do 2 20-minute recess. Some chose, I think Dr. Bullard, maybe a 30-minute and a 10-minute or a 40-minute. So I think principals felt really good with it, having conversations with each other. We feel like we're meeting those guidelines, but we know now we're going to have to just be a little more intentional with those times.
So it came out of instructional time. It's kind of the,
It did. We had to adjust. We
Yeah.
did have to adjust
Okay.
the recommended times. We didn't have as much flexibility that we normally do.
yeah.
But you said that the state had changed some of their requirements on instruction time, or
Well,
not?
they just have recommended times. They don't have mandated times.
Okay.
We're still within those recommended. There's a minimum times put on there, and with some, they're at the minimum.
But I think it is fair to say, I think maybe what Ms. Moore is getting at too, if you take the required times and the upper end of all the recommended times, you have more minutes than there are minutes in the day.
Yes.
And so,
Absolutely.
whereas before we were in some areas being able to hit the higher end of the recommended minutes, we are not anymore. So those came from instructional time. And we tried, Ms. Arnett tried to be really intentional about leaving things that we know are proactive, preventative things like our morning meetings, but it is going to be definitely tighter. I don't know, Dr. Bullard, if you want to say anything about the schedule. I know you've worked through this and have had to deal with this firsthand. I'll throw you on the spot since you're here.
Like Ms. Arnett said, she did a really wonderful job of facilitating conversation among the principals, and we had some latitude, when we have classes transitioning to lunch, particularly in a really large school, you might lose some time through those lines. So that's where, I might have a class go out for 10 minutes, and then they're going to get their 30-minute extended break later. But I think having that autonomy and how we move all those different pieces around has been really helpful. But yes, at the end of the day, it came from instructional minutes, and so I think we all worked really hard with our leadership team to make sure we were maximizing every instructional minute.
I don't look for this to stay very long. because all the districts are having difficulty with this.
One final question for Ms. Arnett, if I could. There's no reasonable belief that the change in the instruction times would correlate to a diminution in educational quality.
No, no.
That's a loaded
No.
question.
It is, it is, but no.
No
it will not.
reasonable belief. That was
That's
worded
right.
very specifically.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The answer could be, we hope not.
We hope not.
Hope not.
Yeah, TBD.
Thank you, ma'am.
Not thought through very well.
Nope. All right, we've had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of the policy change, say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. 6.600, student records.
All right, this is our last one, so thank you for sticking with me. Revisions to Board Policy 6.600 are aligned with recent legislative changes pursuant to Public Chapter 156. The policy now explicitly states that the district has an obligation to provide students records to the receiving school within 5 business days of a student's transfer. Additionally, the consent section of this policy has been clarified to improve language and incorporate federally recognized exceptions, ensuring consistency with FERPA requirements. Our staff recommendation is to approve changes to Board Policy 6.600 on first reading.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Any question or comment? I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Approval of budget amendment Title I and IDEA federal project.
Yes, we have a few budget amendments tonight to do the final cleanup for the year. This first one with Title I and IDEA, we received guidance from the State Department earlier this year that asked us to separate out into 2 separate line items the amount we have budgeted for certified subs versus non-certified subs, meaning whether or not they have a teaching degree. So the actual amount of money did not change. We just moved it into 2 line items, and so that's what this first budget amendment is for, and we are recommending approval as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Long. Any question or comment? I see none. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Budget amendment for federal projects.
Similar to the last one, this is an amendment of $2,000 within our Access for All Learning Network grant to accomplish the same task of separating out certified and non-certified subs per state guidance.
We have a motion to approve the budget amendment.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Any question or comment? And I see none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? There is none. Thank you. Approval of budget amendment for the general purpose.
This amendment transfers $465,735 of previously approved funds within the major accounts in the general purpose fund. This will address several accounts that need adjustments for the end of the year for benefits, salaries, and equipment to recognize these actual expenditures now that we're wrapping up the FY25 year. The amendment also does the previous that we talked about, which is the separation of certified and non-certified subs. All the funds that are being reallocated are within the same budget category, so there's no further approval needed outside of the board's approval. There's no programmatic changes and no new positions. It's just a final cleanup for this fiscal year.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Long. Any question? All in favor of the budget amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Central Cafeteria Fund budget amendment.
This amendment transfers $5,000 of previously approved expenditures within our cafeteria and school nutrition fund to recognize the preliminary budget amounts to our actual year-end actual amounts. The increase in maintenance and repair of equipment is covered through savings found in food prep supplies. There are no programmatic changes or new positions, and I will say this is really more preventative and proactive in case in these last few days we have any last-minute requests we have to fill for maintenance. So we are recommending approval as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Budget amendment for ESSER.
Yeah, so every time we think we're done with ESSER, it keeps popping back up. So as the board is aware, on March 28th of this year, we received notice from the federal government they had ended all previously approved ESSER 3.0 liquidation requests, effective immediately. The department did say they would consider those outstanding extensions on a case-by-case basis, and that we had to resubmit that. We did resubmit the extension for the funds we had appropriately and prior been approved expenditures, and that were done within the time frame we had been granted. I just want to continue to clarify that. We had done everything the way we were supposed to. So we did resubmit that per the new Department of Education guidance. However, as the state has been working through this with the U.S. Department of Ed, they've noticed some trends in what's being approved and what's not being approved. And their recommendation was for us to resubmit for other allowable expenditures versus the ones we had. So what we had to do now is redo the budget, reallocate some things away from capital outlay into regular instruction. And then once that budget is reapproved by the board and reapproved by the state, then we will resubmit it. I will be very clear. We have not gotten a denial from the U.S. Department of Ed on what we submitted. However, based on conversations that our team is having with the state and what has been previously denied, we are anticipating it to be denied. So we're going to go ahead and do some cleanup on our side and try again to recoup the money. Mm-hmm. So this is a budget amendment just to kind of move things around with a better chance of it being reimbursed.
Yeah.
Have a motion to approve the budget amendment for ESSER.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Any question or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Approval of a contract extension for ABM custodial services.
In January of 2023, the district entered into an agreement with ABM for custodial services. This item seeks approval for the final contract extension allowable under the original agreement. It will cover the FY26 school year from July 1st to June 30th. Per the terms outlined in the agreement, pricing will increase by 3% over the previous year's rate. The updated annual cost is $2.9 million with a monthly cost of $248,523. ABM has continued to provide reliable custodial service district-wide, and this extension will ensure continuity of services through the final year of the contract, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have a motion to approve the contract extension with ABM custodial services?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Long. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Any question or comment?
How are they doing?
Mr. Bartz, you want to talk about staffing rates and report card?
We wouldn't approve the extension, reckon?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Good evening. They send, ABM sends out a monthly survey that principals and supervisors can complete. Typically, their satisfaction rate is about 85% on duties that are being completed. And as most schools complete that, most administrators complete that, well, 75%. And then ABM also reports to us staffing, which is they're typically in the low to mid 90% of staffing. Now, what you might hear occasionally is that of that staff, they each have their own, quality control or how much effort they put into it. So it might be supervisory situation where they might have different expectations that might get different feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I will say ABM put it at our request this year. We met with them, I guess, in January, maybe. Mm-hmm. We met with them to look at to talk through our contracts. Again, very responsive to the services that we asked. They put some additional things in place for us that we asked. And I will say on an anecdotal, so we have about a 93% staffing rate, 88% report card average as far as their grading. But on an anecdotal rate, I will say once those changes were put in place, the number of calls I know Mr. Bartz got, the number of calls I get, emails have drastically decreased. So that is always going to be a difficult position to fill and to hold. But I will say we have seen market improvement from when we ask them to address issues, and they are very responsive when we reach out to them.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a motion to approve the contract extension with ABM Custodial Services. We have a motion, now all we need to do is vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there is none, thank you. Extension for Douglas Lawn Care.
We're also seeking approval to extend the professional service agreement with Douglas Lawn Care, which was executed on August 13th of 2024 for an additional year. In accordance with Section 3 of the agreement, both parties have mutually agreed upon to extend the contract through June of 2026 under the same terms and conditions. This, of course, is for all of our lawn mowing at all of our school sites. The cost of the services for next year will be $152,800, and which will be paid from the general purpose fund.
Do we have a motion to approve the contract extension with Douglas Lawn Care?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Price and Ms. Dodd. This is Mrs. Douglas, the lady that wears the long dress and the hat and cuts.
Yes.
They've been doing this for years. We had them at Walter Hill for a while, and they're fantastic. She rides that mower like she was a, well, whatever. I mean, she knows what she's doing, and she'll tell you too how it's going to be done.
Get out of her way, right?
That's right.
I was at the office Sunday. I had to go to the office Sunday for a few minutes, and she was mowing the central office on Sunday.
Okay. I have a question. Does this just include the mowing? What about like around the signs do we have any flowers that could be planted or anything? I was over at Mitchell Nelson the other day, and that sign, it was looking rough. It's got weeds growing up around it and everything.
Theirs is that would be our yard crew that would attend to the signs and the different landscaping.
Okay, so she doesn't do that part. She just
No.
does the mowing.
That's correct.
Yeah. If you'll let us know when you see that, I will know Larry and his team are
I meant
really
to, I
great.
forgot.
Yeah, Larry and his team are really great about right before students come back, beginning of the year, getting out there. They do all that mulch and stuff right before school's back in session. Our yard crew right now, a lot of what they're doing is moving things, kind of the helping us during this transition from school year. But if you ever see a situation like that, reach out to us and we'll get it addressed pretty quickly.
Well, I knew they were busy. I didn't mean to throw shade on them.
No, this spring
I
has
just
been
noticed that.
hard.
I knew that they were going to get to it. I was just wondering when.
They can't keep up. This spring's been really bad for mowing.
has.
And,
I
mean,
you can't
it's
keep
great
it
to
up
have
'cause the rain.
but it's caused issues for
Yeah.
both parties.
Okay, thanks.
Get it done before school, so it's kind of like
Yes.
making sure your yard looks good if your mother-in-law's coming to visit.
True.
Oh, we've had a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? There is none. Thank you. Josh Houston and Associates for yearbook and photography.
Yes, we issued an RFP on May 20th for the projects of doing our yearbook and photography businesses at all of our schools. We had 4 respondents to that, with Josh Houston and Associates being awarded that based on the overall score on the selection criteria. They have actually been the provider of our yearbook and photography services last year as well, and we look forward to continuing that partnership. Schools receive a commission from JHA based on the student photographs ordered, and schools can use the commission to acquire products to enhance their instructional programs. Profits are also calculated on the yearbook sales as well, so that's a direct revenue source for the schools. But we are recommending approval of the contract as presented.
Have a motion to approve the contract.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Price. So everybody uses the same vendor,
That is correct.
okay?
We bid that out as the district for them.
Right. We've had a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? There is none. Approval of contract, Pure Storage renewal contract.
Our technology department is seeking approval to renew the Pure Storage support services through CDWG for a 3-year term. This is our data storage system, and it houses our virtual servers, our data backups, and provides disaster recovery. This renewal also includes Gold 24/7 support, hardware upgrades, and installation upgrade services. The cost for the 3-year term is staggered. You have those in your packet. For year one, that price is $58,565, and it decreases slightly for year 2 and 3. The cost of the contract is paid through the general purpose fund. And if you have any questions, Ms. Zavisa is here and is happy to answer those.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richmond. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Any question or comment? All in favor say aye.
Bless you.
Aye.
Any opposition? There is none. Thank you. Contract with the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration.
The city schools was awarded a cybersecurity software licensing grant through CyberSafe 10, the CyberSafe 10 program, which is funded by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's state and local cybersecurity grant program. In lieu of direct funds, the state of Tennessee will provide us software licenses at no cost to the district. Licenses may be developed upon execution of the required contract, which we have in front of you tonight. The term of the contract is retroactive back to April 2025 and runs through March 30th of 2027. You will see the memo in your board packet, and we actually have a hard copy of the contract that we did not post online for you in case you have questions on that. But we are recommending approval as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Any question or comment?
Will this save us any money?
Ms. Zavisa?
No.
It will save our data, though.
It doesn't save us money, but it does add another layer of security. We had to, I did a self-assessment, the nationwide cybersecurity review, which was one of the things that allowed us to even apply for this. We've done it for 2 years. It's a self-assessment of where we are to find any potential gaps. And this was something they provided to help fill those gaps without us having to pay out of pocket for that.
That's great. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposition? There is none. Thank you. Approval of revenue and expenditure report. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty on how much money we have or don't have.
That's a good question. Before you have a report through April. I'll walk you through a few pages if you don't mind. So the first one with the graph. Obviously, we're at 93 million right now in income. That is 26 million away from our projected, which is what we have in June there on the graph. And then we are 36 million away from expenditures. So that is very promising that we will not expense everything that we budgeted for this coming year. If you'll turn over to revenue, if you'll scroll down and look at the percentages out to the right, the number one thing that comes to mind first is other county revenue. We're only at 50%. A lot of that is due to the mixed strength tax that actually hits in May due to the holdover. And we also have received the wheel tax and business tax, so that has already surpassed that 1 million. So we'll be glad to show that next month. If you'll scroll down to, let's see, line 15, federal funds, a lot of that is summer learning, education and handicap, and IDEA. Summer learning obviously has not come to pass in April, so we will see more of that when we get there. And then finally on line 16, that is just settling up through indirect costs. And then if you turn over to expenditures for this year, the only thing that, as far as percentage-wise, it looks a little out of sorts is down on line 20, regular capital outlay. That is where we've not paid for 910 Ridgely yet. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I do want to clarify, and just, Daniel, if you'll talk on that comparison report, but just a board member and I had a conversation about this. It does show right now that our income has surpassed our expenses. That June dot is the projection from our budget. We know we did budget into the deficit, but that's not an actual. So I don't want anyone to see that and think, oh man, something major has happened. As he said, we are projected to not expend everything that we budgeted, which is great.
Correct. So, a budget's a roadmap of what we plan for the year, and I'd put those 2 dots out in June just to show you where the end of the trip is. So obviously the rest of it is actual as we get there.
Got it. That board member was me, so I'll admit it. Because I thought, what is coming? That's going to send us so far into a deficit there. So that's
hopefully
what I was
a lot of money.
about. Yeah, that's what I hoped, not what the graph was showing. So
Because I didn't follow it close enough, Did the county commission give us any of our pennies back, or is that a?
I believe that's
wishful
Thursday.
thinking?
They passed it, and I do not have a final report on that just yet, but I'll send that to you.
Okay.
They passed what?
Their
What
Their budget.
Oh. Yeah, I saw that.
We need a motion to approve this?
Yes, sir.
report? We do. Make a motion to approve the revenue and expenditure report.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Have a second. Thank you, Mr. Richardson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposition, there is none. Thank you. All right, reports and information. Here he comes. Roll.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening, sir.
Didn't want to waste any time there. Tonight I have the pleasure of talking about our Period 9, which is end of the year. So you're going to get a snapshot of Period 1 to Period 9, snapshot of last year's Period 9, and then some of our numbers are still soft, meaning that when the state finalizes enrollment for all students during the school year based on the percentage of when they were with us, they'll update those numbers in the fall. Looking at our enrollment here, you'll see a 225 student difference between Period 9 this year and Period 9 last year. As you look at those numbers of plus and minuses, those are from period to period. Take a look at our rounded, I think is the key word, rounded average daily attendance. You'll see that we are about 92%. Just a slight variation in count from last year, which I'll share as a summary here. Looking at our year-end averages, this is kind of the summary a little different from what I normally share. 94.5% was our year-end. There was no real percentage change. From Period 8, you saw a 4.2% increase, and then just a rounding number difference in Period 9 from 04. And then significant mentions is every school was above 92.8%. So above that 90 mark is a good thing.
That's great.
Highest mark was 95.7. Take a look at our truancy. Again, these are 10 days of unexcused absences. As you take a look, we had a higher trend this year, not by much, but ended at 682 students. When we take a look at a year-end summary, that was about 8% of our kids. This was a 1% increase from last year. Not a whole lot, just a little bit of numbers. And then looking at it, Ermasiegel was a shout out. They had a 53% decrease from 32 students to 15. An additional piece to mention that's not here is when we look at our Tier 3 meetings, I know that you've asked questions about what we've done, how we hold our meetings. We have a 21% repeat rate, meaning out of all the students that came from last year to this year, only 21% of families repeated, which tells me that our interventions, the conversations that our principals are having, Tier 2, counselor interventions, social work, and then the interventions that we offer in Tier 3 and follow-up are working. Could we improve? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what we'll continue to do.
I don't want to miss that data point because I think it's really important. And so I want to just take a second there. But when Ken's saying we talk to those families, we're pulling those families in, where really they get all the way through the process, that by nature, families that get to that point usually have a lot of things they're dealing with, and our job is to support them for that. But the fact that only the next year of all the meetings, only 1 in 5 of those were actually repeats from the previous year. Again, I think that's some data right there to show like these meetings are working.
Yeah.
Do we, as Ken said, do we have some work to do overall with attendance? Coming out of COVID, we had a huge focus on it. We really got them down. We're seeing it start to slip back up. So as a team, we're talking about that. We know that we can't improve scores if students aren't in the building. So that's something we're focused on.
It really reinforces the idea that truancy is a symptom, not just merely not going to school. And if we're able to see what that symptom is, see what the family needs, provide that individually in a catered way, the proof's in the pudding, it works. If we look at the whole child and the whole family and what exists in the community, we can succeed. That is incredible.
Absolutely, thank you. I think one of the things that we did as well is we really tried to clarify. My first year, a lot of families were saying this is a punishment coming to us. We put an intervention in place to ask families to screen, to understand or read a little bit about what the process is about, and then really lean heavily on the social work. I can't stress enough the work with our social workers in the meeting our principals, our counselors, and then really Family Preservation Society, or Initiative, Family Preservation Initiative, has been really helpful in meeting families with needs as well.
That's great.
Moving on to look at that chronically absent rate, this is unofficial. So these numbers, when you look at them and then you look at them next year in the fall, we'll see a difference. These numbers are typically a little higher in some cases. So as you look at that, we have a slight increase of 994 students, which was 10%, where that percentage remained the same. We had 61 students increased from last year, and then looking at some honorable mentions, shout outs. I won't read all of those, but you see some double digits, and I do want to mention the +1s, because that also is significant work. There wasn't much of a change there. All of our schools remained within range. I could have listed a lot more as well. You'll see that in the reports for the handouts. PTR ratios, not a whole lot of change there. Remember, those ratios are different based on numbers. They don't add up just because the ratios are different. And one of the charts that we always talk about, looking at year to year, these are the average daily attendance. These are snapshots of taken around 1 o'clock. We don't update them after days, but based on that month, this is where we were. We did see an increase that we talked about at the board workshop that last week of school, so you'll see that spike that's there. Otherwise, it's pretty consistent.
And I think that spike is a good reason to say why we felt comfortable changing the schedule calendar.
Calendar, yes. Yep.
And as we take a look at our multi-year comparison, all the way back from 2018-19, this is our pre-K 6 period. So the blue bar is our K6, and then when you add in the pink, that's our pre-K as well. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a comment. Oh, I'm sorry. I have a
Go
comment.
ahead.
I was just going to say, period 9, we had 92 point something % attendance. I think that's good. I mean, when you figure in, lots of students and parents think that, it's over after the testing time. And so shout out to all the families who got their students there. And even though it was May and they felt like nothing was going on, but it was, of course. But I just think that's great because from what I've seen, that is normally when parents start saying, oh, you don't want to go to school? Okay, that's fine. It's May. You're not doing anything. So shout out to the families for getting students to school in May.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's good.
Excellent.
Thank you, sir. Good
Thank
report.
you.
Thank you.
All right, we're ready now for the director's update. No, I'm sorry.
evaluation.
Ooh.
Maybe we should get the
evaluation.
update before the evaluation?
That's what we're ready for.
Okay, 2 components of the director's annual evaluation have been completed. The board observational data yielded a total mean score of 4.79, which resulted in an evaluation score of 1.58. The administrator survey produced a total mean score of 4.95 with a corresponding evaluation score of 1.63. The final portion of the evaluation will be calculated once we have achievement and testing data received from the Tennessee Department of Education. A packet has been provided to the board and should be in front of you. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. There is no recommended action. This is for informational purposes only.
Mr. Chairman, I'll say this. I voted on a plethora of things I never thought I'd vote on. Some of them of great import, some of them trivial. The proudest vote I've ever made was to put Trey Duke at the head of Murfreesboro City Schools. What he's done for these families, for these schools, for the community is outstanding, incredible, palpable, and I hear about it all the time. It is my singular proudest vote, and I'm very proud to have you at the head. We're lucky to have you. Please don't go.
Well said, my friend, and I think the rest of this board would say ditto.
Yep. Yes, if I had been here on the board, I would have voted for you. Absolutely.
All right, now we'll get your update.
That's right. Well, thank you very much. It's a privilege to serve the district, and I love the job. And it's because I spent all day today with our senior leadership team out here planning for next year, and it reminded me why we are such a great district, because they work so hard every day and they care so much about their kids, our kids. So thank you for that. Just a few updates tonight after a lot of business. It is hard to believe, as Ms. Dodney was saying, we are coming up to the end of June. which means summer's halfway over. Sorry for everyone out there on that. But that means that we actually only have 2 days of summer school left. So we've had an incredibly successful summer school program. 2 days left. It ends this Thursday. We started our post-test assessments, I believe on Monday, correct? Today we started our post-test, and so we will have that data coming in, communicating with families. They have to show, students have to show adequate growth on certain pathways, so those that make that adequate growth, we will be communicating that with parents, or if they need to also have tutoring next year, we'll continue that communication. So that's really what we're focused on. So that ends Thursday, and then 2.5 weeks after that, our principals are back in their buildings, so schools are back for the 25-26 school year. Wow. We only have one meeting in July, so we will not meet again until July 22nd, so we have a little bit of time. But we will, of course, be at Summer Law the weekend before those of us that are able to attend Summer Law. And hopefully, Ms. Bush's policy revisions will give you a jump start on some of the stuff you'll learn more about there. So those are all my updates. It's been a great summer school, and we are all ready for a few weeks of a complete reset.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, sir. Well said, and thank you, Jimmy. Well said. I think the board would ditto you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments to come before this illustrious group?
No, sir.
It's a big word, y'all. If not, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Good
night.
Aye.